As we are going with our program, I'm now also inviting once again Mr. Kupe to give us remarks. Thank you.
Firstly, I want to thank you, Leda Cheshire Trust, for availing resources so that the young people with disabilities can find themselves being actively doing something. While this time also welcoming that initiative from Leda Cheshire, I also want to say there appear to be an increase in the number of disability-related organizations, which is a good idea, that people are interested. Do as we say, not as we do. So I want to also take this opportunity on behalf of the young voices that we don't target non-discrimination to specified organizations, but to total institutions in Zimbabwe and population. By the way, those who have got a pen, the definition in a graphic form of disability is as follows. Right? This impairment, the word impairment, plus barrier. The answer is disability. Meaning that the community, the society, the mainstream society, is the one which creates a disability by putting barriers so that disabled people are not able to access public services or private services which are availed to every citizen. A good example I've given in Chronicle. A good example I also put in my dissertation is at NAST Graduate School, where you can't even get into the offices of the director because there are big steps. Meaning that the people who created Attitudinal, they were saying they never anticipated that there would be any other with a wheelchair would ever go up to a level or to do business. What for? So, having said that, I also want to give a word of advice to the young voices that in this struggle you are involved in, expect challenges and take these challenges as laying ahead. We are together, we support you, but remember, you're not going to be permanent as young voices. You're also going to graduate into adults. So one day you will also be required to give advice to those who are coming to take over your places. But there's something which is also lacking, which can be done tomorrow or next week. But it has been being held for a long time. That is national disability policy. As a country, there is no national disability policy in this country. We always have the Disabled Persons Act. The draft has been there for the last 10 years. I don't know what causes it not to be signed. There are various occasions. It's a disappointment. We know that government has done some good actions towards emancipating disabled people. But at times, we don't depend with the generosity of an individual. For example, nowadays we've got a very progressive minister who listens and not only listening, but is very proactive. He can act as long as you speak to her. But to us, that is not enough. Because that depends who is in that official position at that moment. We desire, we demand, we require a national disability policy. There is a national youth policy. There is a gender policy. And as we speak in Bulawayo today, we know Bulawayo City has been at the forefront of working with the disabled people. But I know they also don't have a disability policy. No urban council has a disability policy in this country. So may I take this opportunity as well to call upon the Bulawayo City Council and all other urban councils to put in place such a policy. The youth policy, I think 1 month or 2 months ago or 3, there was an election or an appointment of the council, people who sit in that board. I'm not sure whether there is a disabled person. Then there used to be some disabled youth, but I think at the moment there is nobody. So, young voices, stand up and demand your position in that committee. Talk to the minister, talk to whoever is involved. I know if you talk to them, that will not be difficult. But if I end, I want to say it is very important also when you put your summary of activities, because I've seen your document in summary which is on these tables. It looks like a declaration of intent. At times you need to put my benchmarks and measures to say want to do this by this, want to do this by this, so that you put yourself in pressure. The next time you meet, you say you failed to do this, and people will challenge you. Lali tell you there is a long but I go inside. Lali tell you there is a long and the chairperson to be on the defensive. So those who are here, or Dr. Nkala, or Robin Mchedu, or Mrs. Headmistress King George, and all others who are public service, I see Uguti, they came here because they have nothing to do in their offices. But they feel they should be part and parcel. They feel what you are doing is very nationalistic, valuable, and they deserve to be here in order to support you. So take serious, look our waivers, and show resolve to move forward. With these words, I want to thank you very much, and I want to say disability, we are not yet there, but we are moving there. Sunday news. On the 3rd of December last year, if not chronicle, I was so embarrassed, I want to confess, that you have to pick pieces and come up with the International Day of the Disabled story without any contribution from us, and we blame ourselves that at times we sleep. It's a day we should rise as disabled people, write articles, complain, comment, praise, and cry in other forms. Look what the International Day of the Women did with the Chronicle in the meeting. They were everywhere talking about many things. Unfortunately, the women did not include the disabled packet. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kupe.
The Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education has provided with policies as guides to this endeavor. And one such policy is the Education Act of 1987, Code Chapter 25.4, which stipulates that every child in Zimbabwe has a right to education, and that no child in Zimbabwe shall be refused admission to any education system or be discriminated against by the imposition of onerous terms and conditions in regard to his or her admission to any school on the grounds of his race, tribe, place of origin, national and ethnic origin, political opinion, color, disability, creed, or gender. And this is in line with the Article 24 of the UNCRPD. Also guided by the Education Act, schools are mandated to enroll every child without discrimination on the basis of disability. In implementing the Education Act of 1987, the Ministry has the Secretary Circular Minute number P36, which addresses itself to the procedures to be adopted in the identification and placement of learners with disability. While the special schools continue to exist, the Ministry's contemporary thrust is to create an all-inclusive school system that accommodates persons with disability. Through the Department of Learner Welfare, School Psychological Services and Special Needs Education, special education facilities have been established, as well as special educational provisions made in mainstream schools to cater for learners who cannot be expected to benefit from schooling without the provision of either special equipment or special conditions which may relate to vision, hearing, to speech, to mobility, to general mental competence, to emotional status, to extreme environmental deprivation, and to any combination of these. Hence, children with disabilities can now go to schools which are in their communities. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is also in line with Section 83 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. In addition, through the child-friendly school policy, the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education has challenged schools to facilitate accessibility of schools' physical environment through the building of ramps, paving of pathways, having wide doors, as well as having ablution facilities that are accessible by persons with disabilities. Furthermore, through the Department of Learner Welfare, School Psychological Services and Special Needs Education, the Ministry continues to partner with various stakeholders and NGOs in having outreach programs in communities with the intention of reaching out to children of school-going age, still out of school, in encouraging their parental guidance to take them to school. In conclusion, the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education is making progress, especially towards the domestication of the UNCRPD. Unfortunately, when I went through the Disabled Persons Act, I realized that it was silent on education, so I didn't do much on it. Thank you.
But the question still stands, Minister of Primary and Secondary. How many schools here in Bulawayo who are even giving the services of special education? It's food for thought. I'm just giving you point marks. How many schools, considering vis-a-vis the able-bodied schools, after 10 kilometers you find Milton, after 5 kilometers you find Kumalo Primary, but those schools, are they full swing catering for persons with disabilities? It's food for thought. After Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, we are moving on to Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology Development. Unfortunately, Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology Development doesn't have a local office in our province. However, regards the remarks on behalf of the ministry, we might not have that disclosure because nobody has been sent by the ministry to represent the ministry in particular. But since I told you that there are people who are dedicated in the disability movement, so Bulawayo Polytechnic, as an institution, please chronicle, don't quote them as a ministry. Bulawayo Polytechnic quote them as a ministry, as an institution. They are representing their institution towards the disability movement. The reason being, it's also one of the institutions in tertiary education, science and technology development. So at the moment in time, allow us to have words from lecturer in charge of students' affairs, Bulawayo Polytechnic, Mr. Elisha Muchia.
Even so, for those who have challenges, I will not pretend that we are where we should be. There is a lot that we need to do. Okay, like Mr. Kupe was referring to the chronicle about how is it accessible to those on a wheelchair. We face the same problem. The structure that we have, they are old structures. So those people, when they built them, they didn't have that in mind. But I'm glad to say we've done the little bit that we could do to make our facilities accessible. Not all of them, though. There are some which are accessible. So it's a work in progress. I hope people like Tafadzwa and others will continue to knock on our doors to remind us of those, of the need for us to upgrade our infrastructure so that we are able to cater for everyone. Mr. Cook also referred to the policy document. There is an act, a good act. If you go through it, it is gone through it. But when it comes to the implementation stage, there is nothing to guide us. And I'm glad to say, as an institution, we have come up with a policy document, which our students participated in drafting, and that document is in place. And we are in the process of setting up what we call a DRC, the Disability Resource Center, to help those of our students who need that facility. We have been to other places. If you go to the USAT, their DRC is well established. I was talking to Dr. Madambi, the Dean of Students there one time. It is catering for over 300 students. So USAT is done well in that regard. And most of those students, their fees are fully paid by the institution. I didn't know that. Imagine about 300 students, their fees being fully paid by the USAT. So there is a lot of work that we have to do, and we have even our recruitment. I was happy when I saw the recruitment for an advert inviting the new intake for Mutare teachers. They clearly encourage the disabled to apply. And they have a special facility for us. We didn't do it as a polytech. We hope going forward we're going to learn from others. That's why I'm citing an advert that we saw, and already we have flighted our own advert, and we will not go back to change. But I hope in the next coming year, we are going to emphasize. Within our institution, we also have members of staff who have disabilities. We have a lecturer who is completely blind. Okay? She is Miss Dube, she's in the Commerce Division, marketing lecturer. We also have another lecturer who his leg amputated, he's in the automotive. We have a member of staff. So we have them. These are the people who are actually helping us conscientize us on the need for this. You'll be surprised sometimes it takes you having a relative or a child who is like this to be fully aware of the challenges other people are facing in the society. You think everything is okay. So sometimes we can come hard on those people who put up these structures. Sometimes these things are distant until the voice, you can persistently raise that voice. Is this, don't neglect this group, this. We must not tire to talk about it. We must continue to talk. At times you might feel people are not listening, but they do. Tafazwa, as he was introducing himself, he did indicate that he represents the student population in the whole country in what you call, it's a committee chaired by the Vice Chancellor. It's made up of mostly Vice Chancellors. It's chaired by
Professor DC.
Okay. We are trying to introduce degrees into the polytechnics. Not that we didn't have, that we at Pulau Polytechnic we have 2 degrees, one in water, the other one in environmental health, but we are doing it in conjunction with NAST, so we are affiliated to NAST. So we do offer those degrees, but we are not a degree awarding institution. Okay? But the thrust of the ministry is to shift us towards degree awarding. So in that committee, Tafazo represents students. He's our former SRC for 2015, but the ministry he was appointed directly by our minister, Professor Jonathan Moyo. And it's because the ministry does recognize the role is playing, and as he represents those who have those challenges, different impairments, different disabilities. Okay. So we do appreciate what the ministry is doing, and we hope we continue to grow in this appreciation to a level where everyone who has got these challenges are catered for. Especially when it comes to resources. A lot of our young people with disabilities, they sit at home, maybe because the parents can't afford. There are certain things that are expensive. You need certain computers, certain software, some parents may not afford. And it is our wish that the ministry, the institutions will play their role to at least help these young people with the great potential. Okay? Let's give them an opportunity to express themselves, to achieve something. As I indicated, yes, our policies, our student at infancy level, we hope to grow it, and we hope to play our role. And please, as institutions, as organizations, let's help one another in this journey. We can't do it on our own. With those few remarks, I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank you for listening to me as I presented. I thank you.
It's one of the persons who is so humble enough if we are moving towards the disability issues at our institution. He doesn't hesitate to come to me to say, Tafadzwa, what can we do on this? What do you think the institution has to do on this? You know, it's so good if you have the kind of people. There are other kind of people who always say, I'm the boss, so I don't need to consult from you. But he continuously talks to us. Even not myself, even the other colleagues who are here. He visits them. He also knows where the people are learning. He also knows where they are staying. He's so dedicated in particular about disability movement at Bulawayo Polytechnic. We thank you, Mr. Mchia. May you please continuously do that, and also urge other lecturers and staff members at Bulawayo Polytechnic such that they can understand disability in depth. Because there are others who just say, this is a disabled student. When you go for sports, may you please go to your hostels. When they are going for gigi, they are students, they need to enjoy themselves. You are just told, no ocean, you can go to your hostel. This is not your area, you see. But Mr. Mchia comes to say, no. Students are equal. If you want to go, you can go. If you want to do this, you can. Because he believes that what I can do, other people can't. What other people cannot do, I can. Thank you. Our next presentation is coming from Labor and Social Welfare. They have joined us as we have done with the introduction. So the representative is going to start by introducing him or herself so that the House will know and give us remarks. Thank you.
Best office of the complex. Let me just say, for a start, just a brief background. Previously, we used to have two departments, child welfare and social services. But for now, we have since merged into one department, which is now social welfare. There's no longer child welfare, there's no longer Department of Social Services. We are now Department of Social Welfare. We have merged. So, in view of the disability movement, the ministry has some programs that it offers to children, to people living with disabilities. The first one is on educational assistance. As you might all know, we have the BEAM program. BEAM program is for everyone. I think you understand that basic education assistance module, but that also covers people living with disabilities. And these children, these pupils may be in institutions. So those children in institutions will also be catered for under the basic assistance module. That is from ECD up to Form 6. And where the children would need boarding fees, the ministry will cater for that. So it's levy, tuition, and boarding fees where it is applicable. But on the selection criteria now, it is not that because a child is living with a disability, then automatically that child should be on the program. The assessment will be done on the parent if the parent is able to pay for his or her child. That's where the matter is. We assess the parent's capability of paying for the child's learning. If the child is capable, then the department does not pay. But if the parent is not capable, then the department or the ministry pays for the children's education. Then we also have vocational training. As a ministry, we have two centers, RUA and Beatrice. And at the end of each year, usually, they call for prospective people who want to be trained in whether in mechanics, typing, a variety of courses. Then they make their applications to RUA or Beatrice Training Center. Then they go there for interviews. Then once they are successful, then they are trained there at RUA or Beatrice in whatever course they would have chosen. And also, these invitations normally come through our district offices. From the provincial office, then we relay to the district offices so that the district offices relay that information to the community so that the people who are interested may apply. Then under the vocational training as well, the ministry also pays for people living with disabilities in tertiary institutions, whether in teachers' colleges, in polytechnics, in universities. The ministry pays for the fees for those people undergoing any course in those institutions. And also, one last program that we have is for children who may need special treatment or care. So we also place those children in special institutions, and the government takes care of that. Once there is a court order for that child, then it means the government will pay for the commuter grant and even the school fees for the child while the child is in that special institution where the child will be accommodated. So those are currently the programs that we have in the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. Thank you very much.
Give you medication. Can you please try another hospital? I go to Pilo, Tafazwa, I don't have a medication, but it's found at Corner George Slundige, 12th Avenue. I come there, they will say we don't accept this. This is our nation. Everyone has to accept that assistance module because it's under the Ministry of Social Welfare, Labour and Social Welfare, which is in the jurisdiction of His Excellency, Honorable Gabriel R.G. Mugabe.
Yes.
It's food for thought. I don't want your response. It's food for thought. Thank you very much, Social Welfare, Labour and Social Welfare. We actually love you to be with us because each and every time social welfare with disability they don't leave each other. Zvokuti kana turi kumamisha kuti atovane tendency yekunzi mwana wenyakarimara ngaende kuhorofeya, mwana wenyakarimara ngaende kuhorofeya. You see, it's not only that if you are disabled you cannot pay for other things. There are other people who are disabled and even our parents, they can also sometimes support. Like the man himself said, if you are disabled, it's not a qualification to say you get all these facilities. You can be disabled but having your funds. You see, I'm disabled but I'm very smart. Can you define that I'm disabled? You can't, because I'm smart even more than you. You are able-bodied. Thank you. Our next presenter is Dr. Nkala from NAST IDS, which is the Institute of Development Studies. Thank you, sir.
Let me start by saying I feel honored and elated to be part of this breakfast meeting this morning. I got a phone call from Tafasa yesterday saying there is going to be an occasion like this one. I don't know where he got my contact from, but suddenly he had the contact and he phoned me. Then I said, no, I will make time to come. And I think this morning I was the first person to be here. So I take some of these invitations seriously, as you can see. And I'm glad that I also made a contribution to Mr. Kupe. I was almost forgetting. I saw you, then I was wondering, but I know this face, but from where? I don't know, what year was that when
we did some time in 2005, and then I went to Canada.
Okay.
I came back, I started again.
Yeah.
And
Then-
then finally I did not stop. Then you were no longer there.
Okay, but when did you graduate?
I graduated in 2012, 9 November.
Yes, I was back also. I left 2006, spent some time in Mozambique and in Austria when I was doing my studies there. But when you were graduating, when His Excellency came down to Cape View,
Yeah.
I was there.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'm glad to have been, we have made that difference in your life.
definitely.
Okay. Yes. And I'm also happy to say Mrs. Muzondo is at ITS, she's at NAST. And very soon she's going to be completing her studies. And we'll have an alumni who is working with the disabled people in this country. And as I was listening to what was being said here, that she has been working with disabled people for a very long time, we are proud to be associated with her. We are proud to be associated with the organization working with people that have disabilities in this country. Let me also say that as an institution, we are aware, Mr. Kupe, from what you said, that as NAST, probably our infrastructure is such that it is not user-friendly to people with disabilities. Particularly if you have to go to the first floor and you have to go to other floors that are not on ground floor. But I think efforts are being made to be very inclusive, to cater for the disabled people, or the differently abled, if I could put it that way. And as ITS, that is a department at NAST, we also are very inclusive. We don't discriminate in terms of people that are disabled wanting to come and do the programs that we do. Maybe before I say that, let me mention that ITS is a very new department at NAST. We started in 2011, and we are not based at the main campus, we are based here in suburbs. And we are offering mainly two programs, a master's in disaster management and a master's in development studies. So amongst you here, there may be some people that would want to come and do those programs, or any other program for that matter at NAST. So the institution is very welcome, and sometimes we go that extra mile to look at individual cases and make those special considerations. Right now, as we speak, we've got one visually impaired student who is doing his Master's in Development Studies. Maybe some of you may know him. His name is Daniel Kran. He needs a special, consideration when it comes to writing exams because of his being visually impaired. he cannot read an ordinary examination paper that has been prepared for everyone else. So we have got to make a special point for him. And we do go that extra mile to make sure that he achieves his ambitions, he graduates like everybody else. And I'm sure you all know Mr. Malinga. Yes, sure everyone here knows him. At some point he was teaching in one of our programs at NAST. So that's how inclusive we are. What I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter, you shouldn't look at your disability and say, or feel afraid to approach the university. You can also make that contribution, which anybody else who is a citizen of this country can actually make. So as an institution, we are very, very inclusive in as far as disabled people are concerned. But the remarks that have been made by Mr. Kupe, I'm going to take those to the Vice Chancellor to say I was in this meeting. We have breakfast we have admin meetings every Tuesday, and we discuss what is it that you did last week. You know, every person from the unit, they report. So I'll also report that I attended this breakfast meeting, and one of the issues that was raised was that as a university, we still need to do something about our facilities to make them user-friendly. And that message will get to the King, Mr. Kupe. I'm sure he's going to do something about it. Yes. Otherwise, I think I should just conclude by saying I encourage everybody here that want to pursue further studies at NAST. The first one, you're at the Polytech now, isn't it?
Yes.
And you'll be finishing, I think, your diploma very soon. And as you are aware, the diplomas at the Polytech, they are used as entry qualifications into some programs at NAST. And you don't start from first year, you start maybe second year. So if you feel you want to continue, I've got an open door policy myself, just as much as the rest of the university has that kind of open door policy. So don't be afraid of approaching us. And I'll be leaving maybe 8 years very soon, but I'll still remain within the university. So anybody, even if it means just passing by and saying hi and you know, exchanging information on what is it that you need to do if you want to continue with your education. You are young people, you are the future of this country. And we all believe that as education institutions, we have got a very big contribution to make to young people. Just pass by and remind me, Dr. Ngala, remember in that meeting we were together. I just want advice here and there, or I want us to discuss this particular issue. Our doors will always be open. Thank you very much for inviting me to this meeting.
Call us people with disabilities. Because if you call us living with disabilities, it would be more or less a person living with HIV and AIDS. You see, we don't survive with any disease, but we survive with our disability. You see, at one point last year, we had our disability expo, and due to the appointment of the advisor of in the president's office and cabinet, Dr. Timothy Stamps, he was appointed as the acting advisor in disability issues in the office of the president. He said, let's take Disability Expo in conjunction with the Ministry of Health Expo. And then we were shocked. Why do you do that? Ministry of Health is exhibiting medication in different health issues, prescription, and where the things are found. You see, And at the end of the day, you are also talking of disability. So the public will be thinking that, so if you are disabled, you are now sick. We are not sick here. It's a condition which we have. So we are not people living with a disability. Otherwise, I would like to thank Dr. Nkala for his submission to the House. It's so relevant and critical to have such kind of people, because right now they have also knocked sense into my head to say, if you are done with your diploma, actually I graduated last year in my diploma. I'm now doing my higher national diploma. So I hope to join you soon. So I'll come for the advice, and even my other colleagues who are here, don't hesitate, as he has said. Going back to our program, I'm not sure if the principal for UCE is available now, because he has a presentation. Maybe he's not in as well, so he didn't come. And the representative of the Ministry of Local Government, are they in? No. We were supposed to have a presentation from the Ministry of Public Service Commission, but due to government protocols, the representative was told not to disclose or to share anything against their ministry. Of their ministry, yes. They said they were not giving that clearance. You see, when you talk of disability things, I don't know the reasons behind, but he's there to share with us. He's there to share with us why the ministry doesn't give us a clearance to deliberate on such forum. Because today we employ all kinds of people with disabilities. What are they saying in terms of quota system? What are they saying in terms of our presence? We have gone through Mrs. Khadebe, we have gone through Dr. Nkala, we are seated at home. We are closed. You are disabled, we don't have, no. You see, we have got a lot of applications through their offices. But they've said they cannot give us any deliberations. Maybe during interaction and as we talk to him, you tell us why the ministry doesn't give them a clearance. So it's a challenge to you young voices. You need to revisit that ministry. Why don't they give us a representation or a deliberation on this forum? Because it's the responsibility of the ministry to shed light on us in terms of our employment sector as persons with disabilities. That's our cry, that's our worry. That's why we are learned. Mr. Kupe has recently kept, after graduating, I also gowned last year by Honorable J.N. Moyo. I also need to be employed. We have got finance accountants, we have IT managers, we have got different kind of people, secretaries. We need to be employed. But if they're not giving us deliberations now, where are we going? We are stuck. Maybe one will go, this one the noise. I don't know. You will tell us more. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We are now into we're supposed to have also another presentation from the Minister of Youth, Empowerment and Indigenization. Is the representative here? He's not here. You see, that's also where we are lacking. So if the government, if those ministries now are not attending this kind of forums, what knows what I say? Pani status. Maybe later to blow a poly I'm the director of the ministry. Should I go and mingle with the students? But we are here at a hotel status where you are safe, seated, you are drinking mineral water, you are drinking nice things, even sharing with Dr. Guru Nkalas. They are here and they are failing to submit their submissions here. So it's a challenge also, Young Voices. The moment we are done from this meeting, you need to visit those offices. I hope we will finish it before 4 o'clock, so that you go Wednesday before the offices are not are locked. Carry your invitations. We gave you this invitation last week or 2 weeks ago. Why didn't you turn up? They have to put it. And I understand the Chronicle is there. They are listening to what we are saying. We need to be heard, you. We need to be heard. We are the youth. So if the Minister of Youth is not here, they are fearing what Mr. Kupe have said. They recently put above the Youth Council. They don't have a representation of a disabled person. So I don't know how to this youth they can attack. I don't know. Food for thought. So we can quickly now go to the segment of discussion and way forward, which will be almost our last segment of our program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tsona, for giving us the presentation. We are so much grateful of the programs offered by the government of Zimbabwe to assist persons with disabilities. My question now is, in terms of payment of fees in various institutions, the disabled persons, after receiving confirmation letters from the Department of Social Services that the government will pay fees, the institutions denies those letters and denies those students to access education. So what is the government policy saying about the institutions concerned? Because we as disabled persons also need our right to get education, as it is stated that disabled persons are supposed to get state-funded education. Now the institutions are refusing the letters. The institutions are chasing those students. What is the government policy saying, Mr. Representative of Social Services? Thank you.
Once someone has been offered a place at an institution and the application has been made for payment of the fees, that person should continue with the education of that, with his or her education at that institution. But it's only that maybe is the issue of attitude of some of the institution, people at the institution, because whatever will happen, the government will eventually pay for those fees once the application has been made. So the government says once you have been offered a place and you make your application for payment of school fees, you just continue with your education and the government will pay at whatever time. We know at this time the government is facing some challenges, but it will eventually pay. That's the policy of the government. So maybe the issue is some of those things have not been brought to also to our attention. If such information is also brought to our attention, we will be very grateful also that we also advise even the minister that such an institution, this is what it is doing, and then the minister will come down on him. And even also the disability board will also take on those issues, if such issues occur. But the government policy is once you have been offered a place and you make your application, then you cannot be denied access to any education.
Thank you so much.
Maybe my only problem is, I don't know from this area, but from where I was, because I was in Masvingo for quite some time, I never experienced such issues.
Thank you so much.
Pay to find these students. How long does it take you to pay? because if it runs into years, institutions have obligations to provide services. And if you are, as a ministry, all you are giving is your word or your paper without making a serious commitment, then there is a challenge. And how often do you engage the institutions where you know you have students you are supporting? Do you sometimes visit these institutions to find out what's the situation prevailing on the ground, or you just sit in offices and issue papers which you don't honor, okay? Which will take maybe years to honor. See, because it will be unfair to just issue papers and you don't know what is it. Let's be real. What is it that is happening? Because some institutions will react because of seeing this behavior, where yes, we are holding on to a paper, maybe it's for meals. The institution should provide the meals from their sources. And normally, for meals, it's only the students pay, and from that money, the institution should provide meals. Nothing coming from government. It's the students themselves pay. And you take 2-3 years without pay. How do you deal with that? These are issues that you think close liaison between you, the department, and the institutions is important. If you can update us.
Right. On how long the payments will be made, it depends, because this money comes from Treasury. So if Treasury says, for now we don't have the funds to pay, obviously it will also take time. But if Treasury has the funds and it releases the funds on time, then payment will be made quickly. But like I indicated, that like everyone knows that the government is facing some challenges. So there's financial constraints within Treasury. So that money may take a little bit of some time. But the issue now is, if you disadvantage that person from attending the school, and then the government eventually pays, and what will happen to this person who would have been denied access? He was not allowed to sit for the exams or to go to the dining hall, but the government pays in full that money. Are you going to reimburse? Is the institution going to reimburse the government? And obviously, it's no, that money goes to the institute, to the advantage of the institute. This is why you say, that is why the government says, once that once an offer has been made and an application is made, then the institution should not send away the applicant. Then on engagement of institutions, like I said, I have not heard much from any challenges from where I was concerning this issue of payment. So it's very difficult for me now. Maybe it's happening here, so it's an issue that from this issue, if we get such complaints, then we'll start engaging them so that they continuously have those students at their institutions, because government automatically it has made a commitment to pay, and it will eventually pay that money.
To what is happening. Like I'll give an example of what is happening in my institution there. I'm a secretary student with Jairus Jiri, being paid, my school fees being paid through the social welfare. Currently, I've been told that the documentation, the paperwork that I've done before, everything, the system has changed. I'm supposed to go and see the doctors and get new papers that clearly state that I'm disabled. And guys from social welfare, they have refused and said they are not going to pay, or they are not going to sign for any payment of my school fees. I need to go and get new letters from the doctor. And to the doctors there, it's a bit difficult for me to just walk into hospital and demand for the letters. I have to go and pay. And you also have to bear in mind that some of us, our disability probably they happen due to different places or due to different reasons. So how then do I get to tackle that? At school I'm being told that I have to leave the classes and go and get medical letters. They need that money from the social welfare, and social welfare is telling me it will take time. At school they need those papers. Next week I'm supposed to sit for my exams. I'm starting to write my exams on the 16th of this very month, next week on Thursday. I'm supposed to start writing my first paper in business accounting. How then do I get to tackle that?
Okay, let me say, as far as I know from the program, that requirement is not being there unless it is a new development that has not come through me. But from what we have been doing all along, that confirmation of disability is a requirement for someone who wants his or hers school fees to pay. The only requirement, that requirement was only required on the revolving fund, disability revolving fund. That's what I know. But when people want to attend any vocational school, any college, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I know, that thing about the doctor's letter confirmation of disability, I'm not aware of that. So maybe it's a new development, or maybe also, what I can also say is, those people, it may be people from the district office who will be repairing those. But us at provincial level, if we don't have that information, what we only want is they should only submit their applications as they are without those papers when we submit it, because head offices never advised us. So if you encounter such problems, I think it will be proper also that you will also notify the provincial office that this is what I'm encountering, so that we can take some corrective measures.
Thank you very much. I think yes.
Excuse, may I suggest that Jairus Julie principal works with a doctor so that it can be done. Like yesterday, I had 2 deaf boys who wanted to do a test for a learner's license. We've been having lessons for members of staff at school and some of our deaf students as well. So yesterday it was an exam day. So the officials who were going to be the examiners wanted doctors' letters of confirmation that the young adults were indeed deaf. I wrote letters confirming the disability, like the name of the student, the date of birth, and the disability. And then I took them to 24-hour clinic. We have an arrangement with Dr. Sorori and other doctors. So with the letter from the school principal, and you take the students there, he just kind of assesses them and confirms. Then even for SIMSEC and places like that, it's kind of a requirement, but it doesn't take long. So it's the principal who works in conjunction with the doctors of their choice as a school. It's not really too difficult, and it's not like it's impossible.
Forward for these and any other issues of social services, I think it's quite relevant, Young Voices. Before we leave this room, we need to take details of this representative from social welfare. Then we book an appointment, and then we consolidate all our issues, because it's still very perturbing in institutions. We normally have kind of these scenarios. Maybe, for example, a student has been accepted, but the fees hasn't been paid. I would be denied to get a certificate. because the institution will be saying, you are owing. You see the thing? That much I'm owing, I'm not allowed to get a certificate. But the social services confirmed that they pay my fees. But because the social services haven't paid, the institution will deny to give me my certificate. So these are some of the things which social services has to take into consideration. Maybe they might be providing maybe social services officers visiting institutions of the students who are beneficiaries, talking to the representative, like what usually Capenham do. Capenham, they usually come and meet maybe the representative, the institution, and negotiate with them. The payments are going to be like this. But as like Mr. Michel has elaborated that if you accept, you be quiet, and then we will all start. Because students even get some meals, students are supposed to be paid for some other things. But if maybe you social services, you'll be providing social welfare officers visiting those institutions of those beneficiaries of your funds. I think it will be quite relevant for the institution. They will be assured that at least we had a meeting last week with a representative from social welfare, they said this and that. I think that one is cleared. So for progress sake, we need to book an appointment with the public service, with social welfare, so that we deal with these issues in detail.
Question is directed to the Minister of Primary Schools. As we are aware that now, this time, sign language is an official language here in Zimbabwe. How far have you gone in schools teaching sign language? I thank you.
So far, sign language is being used in schools where there are resource units for the deaf. And the people who are actually conversant in that language are the teachers who are trained in sign language, and we've got quite a few of them. But for everyone else, not much has been done. King George has been assisting us. I think Mrs. Hadebe can say more on that, because they've been having meetings and also trainings with some schools. Even our department at provincial level has also been attending lessons at King George. But I think Mrs. Hadebe may direct the question to you. I think she has more to say on that.
We have massive lessons on sign language. We do have lessons that are organized, like maybe for police. Like recently, for 2 weeks, we had representatives from the police all over the nation, from the 10 provinces that we trained in sign language. Last week, we had a meeting with the heads of schools, just to put an appetite in them to support the teachers that should come to King George to learn sign language. We do have a teachers meeting at King George once a month for sign language. But otherwise, from Monday to Thursday, we have sign language lessons. At the moment, they are free. They are open to anybody. So many teachers are taking an interest and they are coming to learn in sign language. So something is being done, and we have a DVD sign language that was produced by our very own Mr. Sindile Mhlanga. It is very good. We only sell it for $3. It's available at school. So schools and other people who would want to learn sign language, they can buy that DVD. It is, it even indicates how one will move the hands as they will be communicating. So we are really for sign language. We are privileged to host many organizations. So you can decide whether you want to come as a group, you just block, or you would want to come on specific days, on the same days right from the 10th. We have members of staff also who go to City Council, to United College of Education, and we have some nurses as well that we have trained and are continuing to train. We have an example of one policeman who is based at the one of the traffic offices. He trained there and has been instrumental in training other police officers as well. So sign language is really moving like fire. Ministry officials do come, not only from Bulawayo Metropolitan Province, but we do have ministry officials, especially who work in the learner welfare, school psychological services and special needs education, even from Mad South, Mad North, who come for sign language lessons. So we do have some workshops from time to time. We are available. Us as members of KG6 staff, we also do lessons that are specifically for members of staff. We want all our members of staff to be proficient in sign language. So that's a big start that is going to affect the nation and other provinces as well.
Taking the implementation of sign language, that's the part which we want as a Minister of Primary and Secondary Education. For you to give a certificate to a student who has passed O level, who has passed grade 7, who has passed A level, you are saying English, mathematics, Shona and other languages, Ndebele and other languages. How far have you gone to an extent that sign language is part of your curriculum? That's where we want. Because we are saying, Mr. Mchia, for him to accept a student at Bulawayo Poly, they need 5 O levels, including maths and English. Why are they not saying we need 5 O levels, including sign language and maths and English? That's our point. So as a ministry, how far have you gone in eradicate the sign language on your curriculum? I understand that you recently have the new curriculum, isn't it? Is sign language part of that curriculum? And if it's not there, what is the progress so far? That's where we want to hear.
In a position to answer that question because I don't have much knowledge on that. But it's open to the House. Once again, if Ms. Hadebe is aware, maybe she is free to respond. But I don't have that knowledge. I'm sorry.
Young voices, we are being challenged. We need to visit the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, trying to find a way forward in putting sign language on their curriculum. Because if they can put Ndebele on curriculum, if they can put Shona, if they can put physical education, if they can put all these subjects, 34, because sign language, where is the sign language part of it? Are they not violating the Constitution? They are now denying these chapters, 89.65, the right to education. But Patricia is now redundant and quickly disclosed out of education. Because sign language, you are not allowed to come here. Where are we? This is that's the real point, part of having this discussion. The ministry has to give us an insight. Okay, there was a hand somewhere.
Inclusive learning. So ngibuza ukuthi lapha eBulawayo inclusive learning yangikhona thina siyibone because isikole esingathi silazo for inclusive learning, maybe for the blinds I can say it's true. Then is St. Bernard's the captain for the primary. Then is secondary, singathi sile King George for amanye ama-disabilities and so then khona lapho kuma-schools enalawa for amanye ama-lessons why engayenzwa njengoba kuthiwa yi-inclusive learning amanye ama-students aya-attend ama-computers then us ama-blinds sizabe sihlezi we are not attending ama-computers enalawa why khona kuthiwa yi-inclusive learning which means we are going to sit khona ngale zikolo zona zasikhule then singakhula sesibona ukuthi and futhi khona lapha sisebulawayo ama-secondary awakho when nxa sesifuna ukuya kuma-secondary yethu travel ama-long distances sisiya engxenye kubomshabezi ugwere emashingo wayilesi kuthiwa inclusive learning why engekho lama-secondary khona lapha ebulawayo nxa singakhangela kodani engxenye uyakufundile esikolo wayele ukuphuma le-5 subjects ufuna ukuthi usupplement nxa susiyarejista kuzatshela ukuthi nxa ufuna ukubhala this year kufanele ukhe last year.
In schools which these people are learning, those teachers now, they are not well versed in that. And at the end of the day, a person who is with a disability is doing grade 7 while he has got 17 years old, learning with a 10-year-old student. So what is the ministry doing about that? Because we are saying, if I'm sitting for November exams 2017, I have to be registered in the same year and sit in the same year and go. I have to be in the line of my education stream. What is the ministry doing about it? And also, she raised also another question of saying, here in Bulawayo, there are more than a number of secondary schools, but you are counting that we only have one school in Maketen which is catering for the special education. Why is it like that? Because we are now self-centering these persons with disability to say, if you don't go to Maketen, go to Kapota. We are now having a transformation of persons in Bulawayo going to learn in Marondera, no need to go to in Murewa High. That's where there is a special needs education, a resource center and whatsoever. We need these things to be available in all schools, no matter the person is there or not. Because at one point of the time, that person will be there, and then you start run around when the person is available.
We have got special education. If you are children with special needs, and let's say maybe you only have physical disability, and in the time that you need to take to write the exam is more than there was mainstream. There is a provision for that. The school which you are registered is supposed to apply for special examination considerations at ZIMSEC, and then you are given extra time. And then, with regards to the special facilities for learners with various disabilities, for example, visual impairment that we're talking about. Yes, currently we've got 2 resource units at the primary level. We don't have a resource unit at secondary level. But then that's an ongoing process because we are still engaging schools in trying to convince them to open resource units. It's the schools which open resource units, and with our guidance, with our recommendations as well. But they are also citing a lot of challenges. For example, they say they don't have enough facilities, like in terms of accommodating, providing the structures. They don't have money. They say they don't have money to build, but it's not really something immediate. It's an ongoing process. We are hoping in the future we'll be having more resource units for the mentally challenged, for the visually impaired, especially in Bulawayo. Because that's a challenge as the Department of School Psychological Services, which will be having students who have finished and written the grade 7 examinations. But then when it comes to secondary education, they are failing to continue because they don't have money for e-enrollment, they don't talk, they cannot afford to go to Mchanis.